Hello, hello. Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of our monthly live series here with BIPOC Executive Search, exclusively here on LinkedIn. My name is Avery Jackman, influencer marketing specialist, and today we are discussing navigating the role of an executive. But before we get into those things, I want to first acknowledge the lands that we are on. And so, Indigenous communities, folks, have always known that being in good relations with peoples, creatures, and the land is integral to well being. In the spirit of living in kinship and community, land acknowledgements are not only a means of declaring sovereignty and treaty rights, but are also a way of all people to feel more connected to a place. BIPOC Executive Search was established in Toronto, a Mohawk word that translates to the place in the water where the trees are standing. It has been and continues to be the home of the Chippewa, the Wendat, and the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, the Mississaugas of the Credit, and many other First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. The area covered by Treaty 13 is signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit. For time immemorial, the lush waterways, rich soils, and purifying effects of the Great Lakes ecosystems have made it a place of abundance for food, medicines, knowledge, and culture exchange and commerce for Indigenous people. For those of us at the firm who are not Indigenous, we will commit to honoring Indigenous ways of being and knowing by slowing down to examine our relationship to the land, ecology, and ancestry. We will research and learn about the original caretakers of the land we are occupying. We will reflect on when and how we arrived at this land. And finally, using a reconciliation plan we detailed on our website, bipocexecutivesearch.com. We will actively work on moving from acknowledgement to long-term solidarity, kinship, and relationship building with Indigenous communities. So thank you so much. And welcome, welcome, welcome. It's a pleasure to be here in space with all of you in the digital space, wherever you may be. I'm located in the small city of Pickering, just outside of Toronto. But today I am not alone. No, folks, I am joined by people who do not need an introduction, although I will be giving them one. One of my lovely I don't say co-host, but they'll be on my panel this afternoon, is the director of marketing, fashion, beauty, film, and mental health extraordinaire, Stacey Ann Buchanan. And Melissa, who unfortunately wasn't able to join us today due to the poor weather conditions that caused by the forest fires. So please send her lots of love. But because as a firm, we practice collective care and honor each other's humanity, we have another folk joining us today. She is a project coordinator, researcher, but she's also the occasional tarot card reader, all things mental health. And I personally love to call her my personal financial advisor. Please give a warm welcome to Olivia Shallow, everyone. Yes, please feel free to introduce yourself, folks. We can start with you, Stacey. You want to just say hello?
Yeah, sure. Hi, my name is Stacey Ann Buchanan. I am the Director of Marketing and Content here. I am the producer of the lives that you see here. I am so honored to be in space with my fellow colleagues and excited to get into today's panel discussion with you all, or rather, a fire chat huddle with you all.
Exactly. Olivia?
I'm Olivia Shallow, enthusiastic of many things, including tarot cards and finances. I'm a project coordinator here at BIPOC Executive Search. I am happy to share space with you all today.
Amazing. And as they mentioned, as I mentioned earlier, folks, today we'll be talking about navigating the role of an executive. And so we're going to delve into the complexities of the executive role, examining through the lens of colonialism and capitalism. And we'll explore how these systems have shaped the expectations and responsibilities of executives and how we can work to create a more equitable and community-based framework. In addition, to discussing the broader societal context. We will also provide tips and strategies to become more effective leaders. So this session, folks, promises to be informative on the role of executives in today's complex world. And I'm just so excited that you were here for us today. But before we delve into all of that, let's lift things up a little bit on a fun note. And we're gonna play a little bit of game. I'm sure all of you are familiar with it. I'm sure you may have played it back in high school, or you may have played it with friends in social settings. The game is simple. It's called Would You Rather. And given that we're talking about executives and we're talking about leaders today, I only thought it'll be fun to figure out which leader in the world you would love to perhaps work with or spend some time with in many different industries or many different ways. So the very first question I would like to ask both of you. So would you rather have lunch, you love lunch, with Michelle Obama or dinner with Oprah? Ooh, who wants to go first? And maybe some why. I'm interested to know why.
Okay, I'll jump in. So I will choose brunch with Michelle Obama, and I'll tell you why. So I remember seeing her do a sit down with Oprah, and she's talking about how many friends she has, and she's like her close circle is around 12, right? And Oprah was like, "Really, you have 12 friends?" She's like, "Yes." And Oprah's like, "I only have one, Gail." Right. And so they had a blast with that. So I would invite Michelle. I would go out to lunch with Michelle. And here's how it's going to go. So Michelle's going to reach out to me. I think she's going to get my number from Jason or something.
Right.
She's going to reach out to me. She's going to be like, Stacey Ann, oh my God, I've heard about you, the work that you're doing. It will be an honor to sit down and have lunch with you. I'm like, oh my God, Michelle, it will be a triple honor to have lunch with you. So she's like, I'm going to fly you to LA sometime in 2024 for manifesting. Okay.
Manifesting.
I'm like, sure, no problem. So the day before, now Michelle's going to call me. She's going to be like, Stacey Ann, I have like 12 friends, right? I'm like, okay. So some of them are going to come, but one of them can't really make it. But Oprah heard that I'm going to have lunch with you. And Oprah really wants to get to know you too. So Oprah's going to come in. So then I'm going to have lunch with both Oprah and Michelle Obama. And that's how it's going to go in 2024. And Tak, if you're watching this, you know about manifestations. And if you say it, it comes back. So yes, that's it.
Oh, I love that. I love how you took it and then you created your own situation. So I love that. Olivia, I'll go after you. I'm sure. Do you want to have lunch with Michelle Obama or brunch or dinner with Oprah?
I would say, well, Stacey Ann went for two for two, but I'm not that ambitious. So, if I could only pick one, I would pick brunch with Michelle Obama. Brunch because I feel like it's a better meal than lunch and you have just more options overall. And I feel like really good conversation happens when everybody's happy with what they're eating. Just food is very magical. And when you have good food, you are not in a bad mood. So I would say brunch. And I would pick Michelle Obama just because I think it would be very interesting. Like, Oprah does all of the interviews and she's interviewed tons of people and it's incredible. And she set such an example for people everywhere, really, for females, for people of color, everything like that. But I think Michelle is a little bit more down to earth, I think, maybe, or that she just be more like, here's how it is. I'm going to give you like the real what's happening here. So I think that would be a really interesting type of conversation and that it could go anywhere because like she's been in the White House, she's been in law, she's been a mother.
Right.
Like I just think that she kind of gives me off the same vibe as Cardi B for some weird reason where I just
I don't think I would have ever expected to hear the words Michelle Obama and Cardi B in the same sentence. But I love that you're going there because you actually changed my perspective. Because I initially was like, oh, I'm gonna have dinner with Oprah because her food. I'm not sure if you ever follow her on Instagram, but I think she has a garden and like a huge piece of land, and she just has like the most like fruitful, like just luscious like food all the time. And I'm like, I want to eat that. But then Michelle Obama they're both really fun. I feel like it would turn into an interview. I feel like Oprah would give me some life advice and I would probably leave there in tears. But you know what? I love those answers. So I'm gonna say Dinner with Oprah just because of that. We have time for one more. I mean, two more. Would you rather? Okay, I like this one. Sing a duet with Aretha Franklin, or write a song for Nina Simone. Very, 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 yeah. No words. What are your thoughts? Maybe I'll go to Olivia first, since Stacey Ann shared first. Yeah.
Well, one, I can't sing. I would enjoy singing my heart out, because just because I can't sing doesn't mean I'm not willing to subject people to my voice, because I will still have fun at that karaoke. However, I think I would rather write a song for Nina Simone. One, because I am a writer and some of my passion lies within that. And as a child, I played a lot of instruments and things like that. So I think I could put together like a cool kind of arrangement with cool lyrics. And Nina Simone just like sings with like something different. She sings like her heart is breaking every time. Just she got that grit. So I would write a song for Nina Simone, and I would ask if I could be there while she's recording it.
Absolutely, a live session with Nina. So I think everyone would pay just for 1 hour just to see her. Oh, of course, I love that. Stacey, what about you?
Oh my God. Okay, so this is really, really tough. By the way, I love all your answers before, and I figured like I didn't give my reason for Michelle Obama, but she's fun. Anyway, same reasons as y'all. Let's see. That's really tough, Avery. I think I may go with singing with Aretha. I cannot sing at all, but I can talk. I can talk over a record. I can say something. I can say a word. I could probably vocalize something, but it will be a dream, and I just love her voice too. Like Nina, it's that grit, it's that soul that comes up from the soles of your feet. And I think just to be on a record with her and just to sing, like I said, even if I'm just saying one word or I'm whispering something, it will be a true honor.
And Aretha doesn't work with just anybody. So the fact that she wants you in the studio with her, I mean, baby, like let's talk about like top tier talent and just like, yeah. I don't know. I think I'm getting chills just thinking about, let's say, like I picture like an underground like New York City bar, and like Nina Simone comes on stage, and I hear her singing like one of my poems or like a journal entry of mine, I'd probably start sobbing immediately. So I feel like writing a song for Nina Simone would probably get me. Yeah, that was fun, and I think that was great. I think all those women. Actually, I'm gonna ask one more, because I think let's talk about some male executives for a second. I just want a little bit. Quickly, one answer. Would you rather interview Barack Obama, all exclusive, ask any questions, or star alongside Denzel Washington in a film? Quickly. You got Stacey first.
You want to jump in? Okay. Definitely star alongside Denzel Washington in a film. I'm an actress, so it'll be an honor. It'll be such an honor. Yes, that's it.
Boom. Olivia?
You know what? I'm going to say star with Denzel Washington as well. I've never acted, but I feel like maybe, Michelle could bring Obama with her when she comes to our brunch. So we're going to start with Denzel Washington.
2-1. I was going to say interview Barack, but then you brought up a good point about Michelle bringing him to brunch. But then also the idea of like, I was afraid that Denzel would absolutely destroy me, because in terms of just like his talent, because it's whoa. However, I do feel like he would give us great advice. So I asked all those questions because all those individuals are leaders in their field, right? They have a long career in multiple areas, and have grown and have shown great leadership in many different capacities, right? Michelle Obama, I mean, speaks for herself in terms of her leadership style. Denzel Washington, leader in terms of an actor, people look up to him. And so I bring that up just to kind of start those feelings, because I'm interested to know, when you first saw this topic, this idea of navigating the role of an executive, what were some things that came to your mind immediately? Like, you could share either one word or just your initial feelings of the idea of navigating the role of an executive. We can start with you, Olivia, first.
Well, honestly, my first thought was probably this is not my area, like this is not where I belong or this is not my specialty. I'm not an executive. And then I had to question that thought and like the underlying kind of why would you say that or why would you think that or why wouldn't you think you could be an executive or working in this firm that places executives, why wouldn't you think you have anything to add? So yeah, that was my initial thought.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, because I think when you think of executives, you think of somebody who's had a long, long career, right? And so you think of somebody who, how can I measure up to somebody who was like a CEO, CFO, and president, right? And I think as somebody who I can see for myself is still at the early stages of their career. It's like, what do I know about executives? But I think an executive is about leadership, and we'll get more into that. Stacey Ann, I'm interested to know what your thoughts are.
Sure. Before we get into it, Avery, I'm going to ask you one more time to repeat because as a producer, I have a special guest backstage. So can you repeat the question for me? And then when you repeat a question, I'm going to bring the special guest backstage because here.
Absolutely. I mean, speaking of leadership, I guess this makes the most sense to have the leader.
Here. So Melissa isn't feeling well, and so definitely our firm, we jump in and we support. So do you want me to bring in the guest first, or do you want to repeat the question?
How about we bring them in, and then I'll have everyone answer the question.
Okay, well, folks, here we go.
You don't need an introduction. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Put your hands together for the president of BIPOC Executive Search, Jason Murray.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. I was backstage listening to all of your wonderful prefacing remarks before bringing me in, but I'll go on mute because Stacey, maybe you want to answer that, and then I would love to provide an answer as well.
Awesome.
Sure. Avery, do you mind repeating the question for me just one more time?
No problemo. Yeah. So just your initial thoughts and feelings when we think of this theme of navigating the role of an executive, what comes to mind?
Yeah. If you asked me that question years ago, growing up, say as a teenager in my early 20s, I'll probably think of like navigating the role of an executive is along the lines of being super bossy, being crude, being able to delegate ruthlessly. It's like a climbing on top of the ladder. There's no survivor. There's either one for all, let's just go, right? So you think of an executive or how an executive has been painted. For me, growing up, it's always a boss, not so much a leader, a boss. As I got older and I got to really see and to walk in waters, because I own my own production company, I create a documentary. And so I've been in the role of an executive. I see how much that role is more of a leader and somebody that practices a lot of compassion, somebody that puts their team first, or somebody who is leading and so the team can follow, and also someone that understands that it's not just about them. When you're trying to build a company, when you're trying to work together, it's collective ideas that bring it together. So, and now that has also changed a bit. It has changed a bit when you look at, I don't want to dig too deep, but you look at colonialism and how it's just changed our perception of how navigating the role of an executive should really be. And it has been here at the firm, I'll piggyback off what Olivia says, has really shown me a beautiful light of how true leadership is and how it really is boiled down to really collective care and understanding our teammates and working collectively together and knowing that we're all leaders in our lane. And in order, we're working towards a line that's not necessarily a finish line, but a line that is creating ripples around the world. And it takes a lot of teamwork and uplifting of each other. So I'm going to finish up by saying, navigating the role of an executive, to me right now in this day and time, it's about lifting others as you climb. Thanks, Avery.
I love that. You brought up so many good points, Stacey Ann, and I want to touch on the colonialism piece. And I love that because I think our ideas of leadership are tied to history. And I think it's no secret that leadership has been a part of Indigenous communities since the beginning of time. you know, when you know, as communities, we lived in communities, right? We lived in groups, and amongst groups we have leadership. But the ideas of leadership, and we see this even in indigenous practices now, in African communities, in East Asian communities, there's an understanding that the leadership is not just the head. They are rather, I always see leadership as you're the spokesperson, right? You are the voice of the people, but you are not just the people, right? You speak for the people. You help with the people. You walk amongst the people. I think that's what, you know, represents a good leader. And I think I love that you brought that up about, you know, how we lift each other up. I'm curious to know, Jason, what are your thoughts? And when you hear the term or the theme, navigating the role of an executive.
Thank you so much. And both yourself, Stacey Ann, and Avery or AJ are in my head because I wanted to touch on what historically people think about when they think leader and leadership. And a lot of it is connected to the word power. And the more power that you yield and have systemically or structurally, that is the archetype that often comes to mind in terms of who, therefore, should be in a position of leading. And so it can be around one's social economic background, it can be gender related, it can be ethnoculturally related, it can be so many different things that we sometimes will have come to mind because of how systems have said, this is what power looks like, and these are the individuals who can yield it, and therefore, those are the individuals who should be in positions of leadership. And that's where a lot of our conversation about bias then comes in, because the work that we are all here to do is to make sure that that archetype that will come to mind isn't a means by which we assess everyone else in terms of whether or not they're capable or whether or not they're ready or whether or not they're deserving to be in leadership roles. In terms of navigating leadership as an actual tool, I often like to say that at the end of the day, everything comes down to how do we build up people's confidence so that they're ready to take on challenges and problem solve. Because so much of what leadership is about problem solving and dealing with challenges when things come up that you weren't expecting, but having to come through on what the plan forward is. And what we do here at the firm, for example, is give people opportunities to continue to build confidence, such as this forum. Everyone in the firm at some point has been on a panel here. Thanks so much, Stacey Ann. And the more experiences you have where you're exposed to something that's foreign, the gift in terms of what you walk away with is something in your memory bank that you can tap back into to say, I can do that because I've done it before. So what's the next challenge that I'm going to be exposed to? And unfortunately, there are a number of individuals, even in terms of leadership, who have not given access to the key to the room, to the head of the table, to give it a go and build the confidence because they have yet another thing in their memory bank in terms of, I did that. So we have to remove our thinking in terms of what things have been historically, which is associating with leadership with power and who yields that. And we really have to make sure that we're giving people access to the types of experiences that build up confidence, that has them say, I'm ready for the next challenge as I continue to navigate this thing called leadership.
So well said, and so many things I feel that in my body, because I think what's really powerful about the words that you speak, Jason, is that you also practice them. And so it's interesting to know that your philosophy is something that you actually live by. And I think all of us can speak to that experience. So thank you for being you always and bringing yourself to the table in the best way. And I think you brought up this idea of, you know, confidence building, which I think is something that I think you do really push us all to do, to continue to step outside of our comfort zone, to continue to always grow and challenge ourselves. And I think the firm's growth has been an example of that, because I think the growth that we've experienced is because we've continued to push ourselves and do so much more and continue to be innovative and think outside the box, like this live, for example. And so, you know, I'm so curious to know, and this is for everyone as well, including yourself, Jason, curious to know as well your journey and relationship to leadership. So I'm sure there was somebody in your life who pushed you to that confidence building, to step outside your comfort zone, to become the leader that you are today. And I think everyone in this panel is a leader. Stacey, and you were definitely a leader. And Olivia, you're definitely a leader as well. So I'm curious to know, what is your relationship to leadership personally, and I guess in your experience? And I guess we could let's start with Stacey. Lily went first last time. Let's start with Stacey.
Oh my gosh. You know, what a great question. As you ask that question, I'm trying to think. I'm really trying to think because I've seen so many leaders. You know, I'm gonna say my great grandmother. Her name was Tetel. She was a very small frame and stature woman. She was very small and short too. And in Jamaica, we have this saying that when you're strong, it's like you're strong like bull cow. Like a bull is really strong. And my grandmother, you will never believe the strength in this tiny, tiny woman. I've only known her for 8 years because she passed away when I was 8. But I vividly remember, her silver long hair. I remember her voice that echoed. She spoke like she had a mic on her, and everyone listened. She was the neck of the household. Of course, my great grandfather was the head, but she was the neck, and you know you cannot move the head without the neck. And she catered to her kids, her grandkids, and her great grandkids, and I've always been fascinated to want to know more about my background, because you all know here, like, knowing more, for me, knowing where I come from is so big for me to know where to go. And it was in 2021, I believe, or 2021, I was asking some of my cousins and relatives, like, where was my grandmother from? Because growing up, I was told that she was a descendant of the Arawaks that were first indigenous to Jamaica. And but I wanted to know more on that and to do some research. And one of my cousins told me, no, actually, she was maroon. She was of maroon blood. And I'm going to wrap this up. So growing up, I've always been fascinated with maroons. I've been fascinated with the culture in Jamaica, that they have their own government inside of Jamaica. Right. And just how Nanny of the Maroon, who is one of Jamaica's national heroes, heroine, she's actually the first, I hope I'm saying it right, or not a heroine, like she was the first, she's the only female heroine hero from Jamaica. And she was of maroon descent, and she defeated the British. She guided these soldiers and these people, and they defeated the British by camouflaging themselves in leaves and trees, like looking like a tree. They did that, and she is the root of that. And so I've always been fascinated. So to find that out about my grandmother, that she descended from that, and I was just like, she is the first form of a leader that I see, that I was just so fascinated with, because I was like, how are you so small yet so mighty, yet can be so compassionate, so understanding? You can have all these roles and do it all, you know. And I look back and I was like, man, maybe if I knew her until I was 20 or 16, maybe I'll know more of her. But to know her up until 8 and to still have that memory, it stands so firm in me. And yeah, Avery, I hope that answered your question. So my great grandmother, Tetel, she is the first form of a leadership that I've seen that still remains in me and that I can still think of till this day.
I love that so much, Stacey, and I love that you pulled in family, that you pulled in ancestry. I love that you brought in even that archetype that Jason mentioned, how your great grandmother annihilated any sort of ideas of what a leader could look like, being so small framed. But there's power, I think, in wisdom, and I think there's so much power in ability knowing where you come from. And I think her roots, I think, are speak to, I think, the strength and the impact that she had on you. And I see that so much in how I think you move and navigate around the world, Stacey, because you bring in and you call in so much of your family heritage into everything that you do. And I can tell that that's where the confidence and strength comes from, because you know who you are. And I think that's so powerful. So I definitely see where the leadership comes from that. Olivia, I'm so curious to know, what is your relationship to leadership?
It's varied. When I think of leadership, I'm very grateful that I've been surrounded by a lot of females all of my life that were in leadership roles. So I've never looked at something and thought, oh, I can't do that because of who I am, because I've been surrounded by, and I've had the privilege of that, of being surrounded by so many different types of people in leadership roles. And I also think about something that Jason mentioned, which is comfort level, because I think there's a lot of different aspects. There is how experienced are you? Where is the need? Where is, like, as I've learned a lot more things and as I've gotten comfortable doing more things, I've been okay stepping up and being a leader in those things, or doing what needs to be done because I know what needs to be done. And I think that is a very large part. And I also think about how the people in your life and the leaders make you feel, because you will always remember how people make you feel. How do you feel if you make a mistake? Do you feel supported? Do you feel like you've just kind of been left there to hang? Do you feel like you've been betrayed? Do you feel humiliated? How do you feel when you make a mistake? How do you feel when you don't know what to do? How do you feel when you try something new? And I think Jason is especially good at that, because Jason pushes people to try. Yes, he will put people where their strengths are. If he sees, oh, okay, you're good at finance, so let's put you in more finance things. Or, oh, you're good at talking to community, so let's put you in more community things. So, like, that part is really good. But I think one of the benefits of a startup that you might not necessarily have with a business that's as established is that you get to strike out and you get to try things, you get to experiment, you get to learn different roles, different, and see different things and try different things, which allows you to expand yourself, both mentally, your capabilities, your passions. So I think of leadership that way. Like, are you improving for other people, for yourself as a person? Are you filling a need that is there? How are you treating the people around you? Because I think that's the most important part. No executive is an executive by themselves. They have admin people backing them up. They have finance people backing them up. They have an entire team of people surrounding them, because in order for them to be an executive, they can't take on all of those roles. So, yeah, I think about, how are you treating the people around you? How are people being supported? Yeah, that's essentially what I'm thinking of when I think about leadership and mentorship.
Whoa, I felt that in my body. Such a brilliant answer, Olivia. And I think that's really hits home for me, because I think my experience with leadership, I think, speaks to, how I felt around. I'm very familiar with how poor leadership has made me felt in my life. I'm almost too familiar with it, I would say. And I don't think it's until later on in my life, I would say throughout university, and I think even in this job that I have now, where I'm surrounded by amazing leadership, where I'm able to now unpack those feelings around leadership, right? I think, Stacey, at the beginning of the lab, you mentioned, your initial ideas of leadership was someone who was tough, somebody who is, strict and doesn't delegate, just does what they want. And I'm wondering that has been my experience, I think, with leadership. But it's so important, and I love that you called in feeling, because that is how you build, I think, a community, even within the workplace, is honoring humanity. I mean, at the end of the day, your employees are people. At the end of the day, your employees have lives, and outside of the office, they have many, many things going on in their life, and you don't know what they're experiencing. And I think, as a leader, I think there is definitely an emotional piece that you have to be prepared for. I one of the greatest, I think, leaders that I can speak to is one of the icons in the ballroom community. Her name is Mika. She is icon Mika, currently Alpha Omega. She is a femme queen, a really proud Black trans woman that I had the opportunity to meet. She's been in the ballroom scene for about over 30 years. And I had a chance to meet her. And one thing she says when she talks about how, because she used to be the mother of a ballroom house, a very large ballroom house called the House of Prodigy. And now she's the queen mother of the house of another of Alpha Omega. And so she spoke about how motherhood, which is like leadership, true leaders often don't chase leadership. They often have a calling to just help others. And she said, never did I think that I was going to be the mother of a house in ballroom. However, I did know that I just wanted to be there for young people. And she said, they told me that they wanted me to be the mother. And she said, I remember being like, I don't deserve this. Like, there's no way. I'm not ready. How can I do this? But as you mentioned, Olivia, like when you have such a strong support system underneath you, that protects you, that guides you, and also gives you grace, even in positions of leadership. That is how you grow a strong leader for the future. So hearing her say that, and even just thinking about my experiences where I felt, that imposter syndrome of being like, I can't take on this position. I'm not ready. There's no way. I know deep down my calling for life. And even when, Jason, I'm sure when you first interviewed me, I think one of the first things I always say is that, at the end of the day, I just want to make the world a better place. And I think that is what has been my foundations for the leadership positions that I've had in my life, is that I just want to help people. And I think, Jason, I'm curious to know as well as your thoughts. I would love to know in terms of your journey to leadership and who made you who you are.
Yeah. I mean, it's really weaving all of what has come up so far. Stacey Ann, you bring up generations before us. And I think about my own parents. My dad came to Canada in 1969, and that is the year after Martin Luther King was assassinated, right? That was a very traumatic time for the world, and particularly for people in the Black community. And I'm thinking about the strength that had to go into making that decision to leave Jamaica to come to Canada. And again, in terms of what I just mentioned, in terms of confidence building, when you're putting yourself in different situations and you see that you've navigated it successfully, it helps you say, I can take on that next challenge, and it builds that leadership muscle. So there's that sense of things that I really do absorb and take away in terms of seeing what my parents have been able to do. And that has inspired so much of what I like to do as a leader. But in terms of navigating, I have always sought people out that would appreciate the value that I can bring to what work they were working on or their portfolio, etc., and valuing me doing it as myself. So really think about that, right? We say to people, be yourself, bring your ideas to the table, etc., but not everybody is always going to absorb them or catch them or embrace them. And so people need to be intentional about finding those individuals who are in positions that might be above your own, that will really see value in you being you, in you expressing your ideas and having those ideas be supported. And so by constantly seeking that out, and leaders that I've worked with probably didn't even know that that's what I was doing, I was able to say, of course I'm going to grow because I am in the company of people who actually want that for me. And so when I was at the firm that I was at before this one, I had the most blessed time to be able to say that I worked with two incredible leaders, Jerry Woodford and Colleen Keenan, who I worked with for over 15 years, even at a firm before the last one that I was at. And I constantly felt that they were individuals that loved the ideas I brought to the table, that loved me being me, and that was never something that had to be packaged differently. So as people are thinking about navigating their own journey as a leader, truly think about, who am I? What is my brand? How is that going to be supported? We know all the people that have their names in lights throughout history are people who truly are okay to actually go against tradition, really carve out their own lane and space. And I think that's part of what we are all doing here, right? At this very firm. I mean, we put out music videos and songs every couple of months. I mean, who does that in a corporate setting, right? We do because we want to. And so those are some pieces as well that I would say what I've used as a tactic to really navigate my own trajectory as a leader, among other things for another time.
So many great things I think you also mentioned, Jason. I think what really stuck with me, most importantly, was authenticity. I think sometimes when we think of leaders, we think of, okay, now that I'm a leader, now I have to act a certain way or be a certain way. However, I think the reason why I think some people forget the reason why you were chosen to leadership is because of who you are. And if that means like you are the fun-loving, happy person who comes to the office, that doesn't have to change, You can still be that person even in leadership, and I think that just, if anything, I think it amplifies and makes a work environment or a community setting or anything in terms of where you're saying in leadership just a better place to be. I think ultimately leaders are the energy curators in the room. When an angry or an upset person, or let's say a poor leader walks into a room, everybody feels it. But when somebody who is kind and loving and supportive and positive, right, steps into a room, it changes everything, especially if they're in leadership. And I just love how the conversation has tilted from, speaking about, let's say, poor experiences with leadership to something how leadership can be such a beautiful thing. Leadership can truly be, the ways in which we change the world. And I think if you go around quickly, if you could give just like, let's say, 2 or 3 traits of a good leader, just for our audience so that they can write something down. And maybe think about, and even you as an audience member, I'm curious to know in the comments, what are some qualities of a leader that you look for? So I'll go to Jason first, because since you went last before, just 2 or 3 qualities of a leader that you think you should share.
Ooh, I would say the word grace has come up a couple of times. There are going to be mistakes that are going to happen in any given day. There are going to be challenges, and I do think that it's really important to have grace. And I actually think that that is really probably one of the preeminent signs of leadership, to stay grounded and not feeling like you're off course because something went wrong, right? If you can still say it's actually fine, that's actually one of the things. And I would also say, I'll bring the confidence word in again. I think that it's comforting for people to know that if there is a leader in the room, that they feel even more comfortable because they are there. If you think about it in the context of war, if you are charging up front, you're doing that because you're trying to say, everyone else, I'm going to do everything in my power to keep you safe, to make sure that you feel secure. So I'll probably just say those 2 for now. So grace, but then that confidence and ready to have people's back, essentially.
Grace and confidence. I love that. Olivia, some traits of a good leader to you.
I would say, similar to what Jason said, patience. I would also say problem solving. And then I would say consideration. So patience for yourself, for the people around you, problem solving, because things are definitely going to come up. If you can think creatively and keep your cool, you're good. And consideration, because it's not just work. Everybody goes on about like work-life balance, but there's so much things outside of work and people as well. So you have to have consideration for the human aspect of things too.
Consideration. I've never heard of consideration as a quality trait, but I love that because that thought process of having to think twice before sometimes you have to make a decision, or how you're going to approach somebody, is such a key component to leadership. And I'm sure, Jason, you can always speak to that as well. Jason, you can always speak to that as well in terms of just like, let's think twice before we make a decision here, or how I'm going to act. So I love that piece, Olivia. Stacey Ann, what are some qualities of a leader for you that you love to share with the audience here?
You know what? Jason and Olivia said everything I was going to say. But I'm going to add something along the lines of passing the mic. So we talk a lot about possibly a leader being the voice for all, but I think a leader is someone that passes the mic along too. Make sure that everybody's voice is heard. Make sure everyone is seen as well. You're hearing them. You're listening to them. Compassion, for sure. So it goes along with consideration that Olivia has definitely said, and yeah, having that confidence in yourself as well. So it's like, I always talk about giving flowers or bigging up yourself. So in order for you to even say you're going to big someone up, you got to start within yourself. I saw a quote, and I'm so big on quotes, that says something along the lines of, people that are genuinely happy or really confident in themselves or what they're doing won't necessarily find time to put you down or demolish what you're trying to say, because they'll more like uplift you, something along the line. So like really happy people don't have the time to really put you down. And I think that goes along with leadership. I'm not saying that we're going to be happy all the time, but somebody that is truly confident in what they're doing can definitely see that, hey, somebody else wants to try. I'm going to give you the mic. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to make sure that you feel seen and that you feel heard, and that you're also put in a position to show what you have, right? So I think that is about it, Avery.
Yes. Compassion hit me hard because, yeah, I think everyone has already said what I was thinking. I was like, okay, say patience. And then Liv said patience. Like, oof. But I love that honoring humanity is within your bones, Stacey, and it's a part of who you are. You have such and I mean, everyone here has shown that they really do love people and love people for who they are, and don't want to discourage anyone from having to show up, show up no matter who they are, right? I think for me, in terms of qualities, if I were to think of something, what hasn't been taken? My mind's telling me to, emotional regulation, I think, is one thing that I like to think about. I think as a leader, you have to make choices that you have to consider how the other person's going to react. One of Melissa, for example, really, really great person who was going to be on the live today, we sent her so much love as well, taught me that when writing an email, it's not about how you feel, it's about how the other person's going to receive it. And that can make a big difference in any sort of situation. And that could be even just simply communicating. I think that's another tip, leadership trait, I would say, a very strong communicator. Learning how to communicate your feelings in ways that is not hurtful, in ways that is constructive, in ways that differ from everyone else, right? I think as a leader, you have to know your team. And one way you speak to one person cannot be the same way you speak to another person. You have to understand who you're speaking to. And that takes time and effort. And if you don't want to make that time and effort, folks, perhaps let's think about leadership. But I would say emotional regulation and communication. You see lots of great comments here. We have one trait saying curious, a continuous learner, integrity and respect for all team members, no matter their title. I love that. We have one from Jesse who says leadership qualities I admire include openness to new ideas with a confidence in their own experience. I love that. Yeah, I agree. I think there's nothing greater than a leader who loves what they do, because you can definitely see it. Like the person in our team right now in the square at the bottom to the right, who clearly loves what they do and it shines on all of us. So I love that. Yeah, there we go. Big square for the boss over here. We love that. Well, it's been a lovely time with all of you. I just ask briefly, just let's say in a sentence or short, what would you share with your audience in terms of share with audience someone who is navigating a role, an executive role? So let's say they just got into a role of executive, or they're pursuing a role of an executive. What is one thing you would say to them to give them that boost of confidence to apply for that role or sit comfortably in that chair? What would you say to them? You can start with let's start with Jason first.
Thanks, AJ. First and foremost, I think, and I'll be brief when I say this, not everybody wants to be in a position of leadership. Some people are more comfortable supporting as opposed to being out front, and that's okay. So if you are someone who wants to be in a position of leadership and is comfortable with leadership, really think about your journey as something that is truly that service when we talk about service leader. Because not everyone wants to be, for those who are willing to be, because it is a lot of work, just make sure that you recognize that you are needed, right? Leaders are needed. And so continue to cultivate that desire to lead and to really show up for people. And just thank you for even stepping into all sorts of complex roles and problem solving and challenges to make life better for a lot of other people.
I love that. I love that. CCN, one thing you would say to someone.
Oh, okay. I will say definitely use this live as a guideline. We will save, no, seriously, we will save this live. It will be on our YouTube, it will be on our LinkedIn, it will be there permanently. So use this live as a guideline and just remember who you are. Always remember who you are. It goes back to the core of who you are, and stay true to that. And so like what we listed here, compassion and grace and confidence, all of that matter. But remember, if they want you, they see something in you. Maybe you haven't seen it for yourself before, but they see it. And like Avria said, you don't need to switch it up. You don't need to switch up. Just be true to who you are and stand firm in who you are. Yes.
I love that. Yes, use this live, folks. Use the live. Olivia, what would you say?
Thank you. Further to what Stacey Ann has said, I would say keep an open mind and don't doubt yourself, because a lot of things that are textbook are not. So you might look at a job listing and it might say, you need XYZ. And just because you don't have it like XYZ doesn't mean that you don't have it or that you don't have the experience, that you don't know how to do it. So I would not say to limit yourself to the box of like a description, because just because something asks for, like project management skills, for example, just because you don't think of it as project management skills or you haven't done a project management certificate doesn't mean that you don't have those skills or that you're not capable of doing that. So don't reduce your capability to a sentence or a description. Keep an open mind, because you have a lot more strengths, and don't doubt your own abilities, because if you're looking at that job and you think you can do that job, there's a reason why you think you can do that, and that's based off of experience.
And I think the last thing I would say to someone is build relationships. You're not in this alone. And just because you're in leadership doesn't mean you have to do it alone. Make friends with your colleagues. Get to know them on a different level, so that when the tough time comes, you have that support. You have that camaraderie. You also, and even in good times, you have fun and a loving space to come back to. We spend a lot of our lives at work. Why not make it a great place to be? Right? So, and I mean, with that, speaking of so many fun things, here at our firm, we have so many fun things going on every single day, all the time. You follow us on LinkedIn, but did you know we also have social medias? So we also have an Instagram, we have a TikTok, we have Facebook, Twitter, all of the good stuff, folks. So follow us there for lots of our our content, as well as we have a podcast that if you love the opinions and even just the voices of the people that you have seen and met throughout the last couple of years, each and every single team member that you can find out on our website has a podcast filled with lots of stories, experiences, advice, food, everything you can think of, it is there. And you can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere that you find your podcast, folks. So if you need something to listen to on your way to work, stop on by. Folks, it has been such a pleasure spending some time and space with all of you. Stacey Ann, Olivia, Jason, thank you so much for being here with me as we talked about navigating the role of an executive. To everyone who watched, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I see the comments. Shanice, thank you so much. It has also been a pleasure having to spend some time with you. Have a great rest of your week. Have a great rest of the month. And if you're going to be a leader, just know you're going to be a great one. I'm calling it. All right, folks. Thank you so much and take care. Bye-bye.